We're joined by Thomas Byrne, Minister for European Affairs, and Fianna Fáil TD for Meath East. Minister, thanks for joining us. We'll get back to the travel cert there in a moment, but I just want to go back to what I was talking to Naomi about, the vaccines. This 1 million vaccine deal in principle with Romania, and the Irish Times reporting that all states have been contacted. Are there any other deals close to being done with other countries?
Well, look, if there were, I wouldn't be at liberty to discuss that. I think what's happened here is that we have now, in principle, got a result, but obviously we wait till the vaccines actually get delivered here as well. I think that's very, very important. But clearly, the government has been looking to get as much vaccine as possible. I think we've, first of all, done that through the European Union deal, and then we have been looking around for some time for whether there's any more vaccine or not. And clearly, vaccine supply for most of this situation has been extremely limited. And unfortunately, what's happened in some parts of Eastern Europe, they simply have said openly that they don't want any more vaccine and they effectively have vaccines for sale. So I think the government took the opportunity to maximise our vaccine purchase because we're basically up there near the top of the uptake of vaccine. We've got among the highest percentages of people taking up the vaccine. It's very, very welcome for public health going forward.
So are these bilateral deals, they're done with the blessing of the EU?
Well, what I'd say is that they're done bilaterally between countries, but yes, they do involve the European Union and the European Commission.
Because they are bypassing that central system that we heard about, that this would all be kind of done so that we didn't have this kind of horse trading between different states.
Yeah, they're done through the whole thing is done through the European Union in terms of joint purchasing, and I think, quite frankly, we'd be way far behind without the joint purchasing. And we see that, a lot of people were giving the example of Australia earlier in the year as something we should emulate. Their vaccination rates are massively below where we are. Japan similarly. So they're two very strong and very large economies whose vaccination rates simply aren't up to what ours are. And that's because of the European Union system. We've looked beyond that to see what's available. There are now vaccines coming available in other parts of Europe, and we're purchasing them. And I think that's going to massively accelerate the vaccine program at the moment. And I want to thank the Taoiseach for his initiative on this.
The Romanian deal, when do you expect that these vaccines will arrive in Irish pharmacies?
Well, as I understand it, it's Pfizer, so I think it's unlikely to be pharmacies. It'll be done through the portal unless there's a change in the strategy. Look, I mean, the deal is done in principle. I'm not certain when they'll arrive, but they are available, and they're ready to go. So I certainly hope that it will be in the very short coming period.
Yeah, because these things are moving very, very quickly this week. I mean, it sounds like heaven and earth is being moved now to vaccinate everyone as soon as possible. And it does beg the question, Minister, why wasn't heaven and earth moved before now? You had hospitality looking to reopen a lot earlier. And if we had more people vaccinated, we could have had a month of hospitality trading already, more young people vaccinated, so they would have no worries about being safe in these premises. This sounds like this could have been done sooner.
Well, this deal with Romania certainly could not have been done sooner. That's absolutely the case. There is about 140,000 Johnson and Johnson vaccines available. That's about half a week's vaccination, because we're doing over 300,000 a week, so it's a bit less than half a week. Extra now into the system to get younger people vaccinated. That's happening. So I think when you look at Irish comparison with any other countries in the world, I think we're now ahead of the United States. Again, a few months ago, people were wondering why we weren't catching them, and we will be approaching Israel, certainly at the European Union level, in the next week or so, I'd say. So I don't see how this could have gone any quicker at all. I think the government has done an incredible job. The European Union has done an incredible job to roll these vaccines out as quickly as possible. And we're seeing that, and we compare favourably to any country in the world. We're approaching Britain as well in terms of numbers that we have. And I think that this week's addition of 1 million vaccines not just will save livelihoods, but is going to save people's lives. And I think that's been the government's priority over the last few weeks and months.
Okay, back to the travel cert that I mentioned there at the top. Let's listen to Michael O'Leary's comments on the hard shoulder yesterday.
Why is Ireland, as usual, paddy last to the table when every other EU country has been issuing the digital COVID cert? Why hasn't Ireland issued it to our citizens? And why are we not accepting the EU COVID from visitors coming from Europe? And yesterday we had a whole slew of cases at Dublin Airport where fully vaccinated Belgian, Italian and German citizens arrived up with their QR code and their digital COVID cert, only to be threatened with mandatory hotel quarantine by the border force, who didn't know what the QR code was. We had chaos at the airport yesterday because we haven't turned on a computer system which the Department of Taoiseach have already confirmed to us, the airlines, can be turned on. It's ready to go. It can be turned on today, and they won't switch it on. Now, they can switch it on, and they're hiding behind this cyber attack when the HSE cyber attack has nothing to do with it. The Irish government can, and we accept they may be incompetent. They can keep us locked down, our Irish citizens locked down, even if we're fully vaccinated, by not issuing the QR codes to Irish citizens, but they cannot deny European visitors the right to come here. They have 19 days of explaining to vaccinated European citizens why they are denying them free travel, free movement into Ireland, when they are legally entitled to come here because they're fully vaccinated and comply fully with the EU, have their EU digital COVID cert.
Thomas Byrne, your response to that?
Well, first of all, I am very surprised to hear that anybody from Italy, Belgium or other European countries that Michael O'Leary mentioned would be threatened with mandatory hotel quarantine, because it doesn't exist for anyone from the European Union. So not only could they not be put into it, they couldn't be threatened with it for any reason whatsoever. So I'm very surprised that would be the case. Secondly, on the digital COVID cert, that is a law that requires Ireland to implement the digital COVID cert within 6 weeks of the 1st of July. We're doing it within 19 days of the 1st of July. Now, we are behind other countries, there's no doubt about that, but we're fully in compliance with the digital COVID certificate regulation. And, I've been very, very clear all along. That is a legal obligation of the state. But it also is important to point out two things as well. That the digital COVID certificate is a document setting out whether you're vaccinated, whether you're tested, whether you've recovered. It's not a passport for entry. Member states can put their own restrictions on people coming into the countries if they wish. And for example, Germany this week, as I understand it, initiated some extra restrictions for people coming from Portugal. So the digital COVID cert doesn't give you a free pass into Germany from Portugal, for example. We control our borders in the interest of public health. Yes, we've said that we're opening up international travel from the 19th of July, and that's possible. And the digital COVID certificate will facilitate that. But in the meantime, the requirement, for example, that you need to have a negative test result to come into Ireland, I mean, you can still show that through whatever means people were showing them up to last week. People are coming here for essential purposes. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of this particular system, or you can show your vaccination status or whatever, whether it's a paper document or whatever evidence that you have. And people have been doing that for the last number of weeks at Dublin Airport and wherever else. But we will be fully ready to comply with the digital COVID certificate on the 19th of July, and that's fully in compliance with the European regulation that requires us to do this.
And when it's activated, I mean, he is sort of highlighting potential chaos at the airports there, because we could have long queues when we have this need to have this information processed. Are we ready for it? How prepared are we?
Look, we are ready for it, and it will be open on the 19th of July. We will be ready to accept it. We're absolutely obliged to do this as part of the European regulation. So we will be ready. I don't predict chaos at the airports. I certainly want to see airports busier. But I in fact think that the digital COVID certificate will lead to less confusion at the airport, because when I talk about people showing evidence of vaccination on paper or whatever, different sources that they have, it will actually be easier with this particular digital COVID certificate, because it comes in a standardized QR code form. So I think the potential for chaos at the airports is not there. But the government and the airport authorities will be doing absolutely everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think travel will open up. I don't think it'll open up with a bang. I think it will be a gradual increase in people travelling, and that's very, very welcome, particularly for vaccinated people travelling abroad this summer, and particularly welcome as well for airport workers and for all of those who depend on that industry, which has been really, really hard hit since this pandemic began.
Absolutely. OK, we'll leave it there, Minister. Thank you very much for joining us. Minister for European Affairs and Fianna Fáil TD for Meath East, Thomas Byrne.